Hello, I'm John Hemingway. Welcome back to Shropshire. Now, it's just a bit of fun today. We're going to attempt to make our own DIY rumen in a demijohn, a fermentation jar. What is a rumen? Well, it's the first stomach in ruminants, which are sheep, cattle, deer, so on. It's just a bag of bugs. The bugs in the rumen digest cellulose in the grass that your sheep are eating. They convert it into substances that the sheep can actually make use of. That's what sheep are doing when they're eating grass. They're not feeding themselves, they are feeding the bugs in the rumen. The rumen bugs are feeding them. If we get it up and running and fermenting, well, we might make a part 2 to the video where we actually overfeed it some concentrates and see if we can give it barley poisoning, show what happens during acidosis. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It might not work yet. So stay tuned for a bit of DIY science. Okay, so here we go. We've got one glass demijohn which will hold a gallon of fluid. We've got some grass that I picked this very morning, and we've got some actual rumen contents that I collected from a routine post-mortem that I was doing. This is going to act as our starter, our inoculant. That is what contains the bugs that are going to get fermentation started. We couldn't simulate chewing or cutting in this experiment, so I thought I'd just cut up the grass into small pieces, which took absolutely ages and it made a right mess, but that is what I will do in the name of science. In it goes. Next will be the actual rumen contents going in, but before we put that in, let's have a look at it down the microscope. You've seen this before. We did a smear and a diff quick for the Heptavac video. Let's see what's inside there. It is a phenomenal mix of microorganisms. We've got these spiral-shaped bacteria in there. There will be monococcus, there'll be streptococcus, there will be staph. We've got yeasts in there, and we've got protozoa, which we won't be able to see under the microscope, I don't think, but we've got all manner of microorganisms in that rumen flora. It is a microbiologist's dream. So, in that goes. There were 5 pots full of that to make sure that we had plenty of bacteria. Next was water. We needed lots of water. I did a technical test to make sure it was exactly 38.5 degrees. In it goes. And lastly, we pop the airlock on the top to make sure we've got an anaerobic environment in that jar. And after adding all of the relevant health and safety signage to our experiment, the only thing left was to wait. Okay, we are back after 24 hours, and pleasingly, there are definite signs that fermentation is happening. We've got movement within the fluid there, we've got gas bubbles that have formed there within the fibre mat, and we've got a good gas cap which will be full of carbon dioxide and methane. Interestingly, this demijohn has arranged itself just like a real rumen would. We've got the fluid at the bottom, then the fibre mat floating on top of that, and the gas cap on the top. That's exactly what you find in the real animal. We've taken a sample. This is pH paper. I just wanted to see what sort of acidity we had in the rumen, and it's come out just about 7, maybe slightly lower. That's just acidic of neutral, which is exactly where a rumen would be. So what's actually happening here? Well, we've got cellulose that's coming in. That is the grass. Cellulose is what plants are made out of, and they are being digested by the rumen flora. The rumen flora are just all the bugs in the rumen. So that is the bacteria, it's the yeasts, and it's the protozoa. They are producing the energy substrates. Now, these are the compounds that the animal can actually utilize to give itself energy. They're called volatile fatty acids. In the process of doing this, the rumen flora are producing carbon dioxide and methane, and they are being burped out by the sheep or by the cow. It is worth reiterating at this point that the carbon being released into the atmosphere by a ruminant is only the same carbon that was removed from the atmosphere by the plants that it is eating. It is a cycle. What happens then in a shocking act of betrayal is that the ruminant actually digests the rumen flora. Those friendly bacteria that did all the good work actually get digested by the sheep or the cow, and they use them as a source of protein. So we've got energy and protein coming through this system for the animal. So there we have it, we've managed to create a rumen that seems to be fermenting on its own. What we'll do in part 2 of the video is force feed this rumen a lot of rapidly fermentable carbohydrate concentrate feed, and we'll see if we can make it go acidotic to demonstrate what happens when you have a case of grain overload or barley poisoning. Up until that point, I will endeavour to keep it alive. It's a bit like having a Tamagotchi again. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you come back for part 2. I'll see you then.